Welcome to the Ecommerce Marketing Podcast, the highly rated digital marketing podcast that provides weekly digital marketing tips and strategies from some of the world's top digital marketers and e-commerce entrepreneurs that will help you take your digital marketing to the next level. Sit back and enjoy this power-packed episode hosted by Arlen Robinson, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience.
This episode has been sponsored by the customer engagement platform SAP Ecommerce that have been helping their clients be customer obsessed for years. Recent research from Forrester has found that customer-obsessed marketers are more than twice as likely to collect or transform real-time data for use in marketing programs and almost twice as likely to use all the data available to them in making customer decisions. At SAP Ecommerce, they help to empower the marketer's path towards greater omni-channel engagement, whether that's pioneering advancements in personalization or growing loyalty to extend a customer's lifespan with a brand by engaging anywhere and personalizing everywhere. Visit emarsis.com to find out more.
Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast, everyone. My name is Arlen Robinson, and I'm your host. And today we've got a very special guest, Paul Kelly, who is the Chief Revenue Officer of A Million Ads, a leading firm specializing in dynamic audio ads for hundreds of brands like Target, Under Armour, and Ford. His role allows him to speak to brands daily and manage a new era of personalization in audio that is both privacy compliant, yet still capable of meeting the individual's customers' needs. Prior to A Million Ads, Paul shaped and actively scaled the commercial strategy for a number of high-growth digital companies, including Viacom, AwesomenessTV, Watchmojo, and GoldieBlox. His experiences gave him firsthand knowledge about brand activity outside above-the-line advertising, including advanced customer service and product development. Welcome to the podcast, Paul.
Thank you for having me, Arlen. Delighted to be here.
Yes, and I'm excited to talk to you as well. And thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be focusing on kind of what your bread and butter is, and that's audio. It's really going to be all about audio and how a brand can utilize audio to hyper target their ads and save money doing it. I'm really interested in this topic today because it's something where if you're looking at a lot of the main digital marketing blogs and some of the experts, everybody's pushing video this. We were kind of inundated with video across all of the social platforms, but yet audio is still very effective. And so, really excited to kind of dig deep into that. Where I want to start off, Paul, is if you don't mind giving us a brief overview of A Million Ads and how your company is really just revolutionizing this dynamic audio advertising space.
Sure. So at its core, the tool is a kind of cloud-based ad server that is able to infer important contextual information such as a listener's location, what device they're listening on, whether it's a cell phone, if it's a smart speaker, if it's a connected radio inside a vehicle, etc. And in milliseconds, configure what the optimal brand message would be to that listener in that location at that time under those conditions.
Okay.
And serve that kind of instantaneously in real time.
Wow.
So, from just using one example of a data signal, which would be location.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about, and sorry, let me add one more, and which is the day or the date, if you will, right?
Right.
From those two, let's call them relatively rudimentary signals, and then you think about kind of sports marketing. And you've got the NFL or the MLB with games playing in different locations around the country. the tribal fandom associated with each team. And rather than saying, great, it's Monday Night Football, a generic message, you're able to talk to Jets fans about who the Jets are playing and when and where. Same for the Patriots, same for the Bengals, same for every single other team, around the country and throughout the season. So it's endlessly surprising to me how even our most, as I use the word, rudimentary data signals can actually, when deployed correctly, really make a difference to the kind of cut through, the creative effectiveness of the ads.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that sounds like some very powerful stuff. Because, like you said, if you're by just taking one of those data signals, like you said, the day, if you're looking at sports, like you said, depending on where somebody is on that particular day, then you can feed them an ad that, could correspond to something associated with that particular sporting event, or
That's right.
something that would be associated with people that typically listen or watch sporting events at that time. So yeah, really, really cool stuff. I know you had mentioned being able to pick up, where or the particular device that somebody is listening on. And so, our world is just changing so fast. We talked about, earlier, all of these platforms that are coming out, where there's always been such a big push for video. But now, right now there's such a rise on podcasting and streaming services. And so I wanted to see how has all that influenced the growth of and the importance of audio advertising in this whole e-commerce world, with the rise of the podcasting and these different streaming services that are coming out today?
It's a great question. And I think how I think about it is audio has created or found new units of time that previously didn't exist. Let me explain that. If you think about video, so there's been a technological innovation in the terms of we're moving from broadcast TV to cable and now to CTV, right? But the hours spent in front of a screen are reasonably steady. Obviously, the smartphone somewhat different, but I think for a few years now, we've basically just been glued to our screens, if you will.
Right.
So, the hours spent that you have to interrupt someone consuming video is relatively stable. How you might do that, and the data and the ad formats and the actual channels, whether, as I said, it's connected TV or another form of social video, those will continue to progress and innovate. But you're still, relatively speaking, dealing with the same amount of aggregate time spent in front of that type of content, right, channel.
Right.
Whereas with audio, because of not just the innovation in formats, i.e. you mentioned podcasts, but also, of course, the innovation in hardware, smartphone, the devices, right? Things that, or parts of our day that were either dead, looking out a window on a bus or a train, or maybe reading a magazine, they're now accruing to audio. So before, audio was, sure, you listen to the radio, you listen to music. But now with podcasting, anything that you're doing in your life that doesn't require absolute 100% focus, you're probably listening to something at the same time.
Exactly.
And so that just makes it, I think that's what's, in a nutshell, I believe that's what's really fueled the growth of the channel, is that it's a new surface area now where there is this, pristine attention, and a very intimate environment, where people are, consuming something kind of unique. It's literally in their heads, as audio often is through headphones. So that's what makes it, I think, really exciting kind of channel to be involved in, and one that has a tremendous amount of value for all different types of advertisers, quite frankly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see how it is. I mean, I think it all with audio, it lends to just with all the rise of all these devices, the smartphones, which you can take anywhere, and all of these apps that make the distribution of all of this media so easy. I mean, I see that on my end, where I take a lot of walks here in Florida. I try to enjoy the weather. I take bike rides, and of course there's video, but you don't see someone usually taking a walk, holding a smartphone, watching a YouTube video. Usually, I mean, maybe they're listening to the audio of a YouTube video, but usually people are affixed to a screen while they're walking, while they're biking, while they're doing.
We don't recommend that.
Right. Exactly. That wouldn't be a safe thing to do. So the portability of the audio is really what I think is really lended to this, like you said, this whole rise in this, the audio ads. Now, I think what it comes down to is kind of linked to my next question. We've got all of these listeners across all of these platforms, in all of these different locations, and it's a large demographic. And so I guess the key thing there, along with, any advertising goal, is how do you target it properly? So we talked about this. I mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast, hyper targeting. So can you explain this whole concept of hyper targeting in the context of audio, and how does that really lend to a cost savings for the business?
Yeah, so it is a little different in audio relative to other channels. Let's say in traditional television, very little targeting. Hence why it's been traditionally deployed as a very, very much an upper funnel awareness channel. But then on the other side of that scale, you might have, let's say, social or digital display, which is an ongoing topic as to whether that the privacy is acceptable, or the lack of privacy afforded to users and individuals is acceptable. So audio sits probably somewhere in the middle, where it definitely doesn't follow you around the web and what you're doing and what you're buying. But specifically in the programmatic space, buying audio in a programmatic, through a DSP like the Trade Desk, where they have very kind of advanced audience segments that rely on, or that benefit from, kind of proxy information. So these are the kind of habits we've observed, or behaviors we've observed from similar audience profiles. They're able to put those together into kind of robust clusters, and provide advertisers with the opportunity to address those segments through any channel, and very often through a mix of channels, so i.e. omni-channel kind of targeting. So there's been a huge kind of progress and innovation in the addressability of audio, predominantly driven by the programmatic channel. And the Trade Desk is a great partner of ours, and as I said, they do a phenomenal job. But there's many others. So that's available to advertisers. But what's less about the individual, but I would argue equally valuable, is the amazing data that a publisher has in terms of listening genre. So, what kind of music you're into, what types of podcasts you listen to. So obviously if you're a CBD brand that has got a long list of products that help ease muscle pain. Okay, I could very quickly imagine that fans of kind of wellness and meditation podcasts, fans of kind of fitness podcasts and content like that, that would be a very reliable kind of cohort to address with that type of product. So what I'm saying is, without even knowing how old or what gender or any other kind of psychographic or demographic data, simply by nature of understanding and seeing the content that's being consumed, you can identify a strong correlation or fit with the product or service that you are in fact trying to advertise and sell. And then you add on to that, the location. We talked about time before, and all of a sudden, you're right, the addressability of audio now becomes quite compelling and very different compared to what it might have been 15 years ago with kind of broadcast radio, where you were kind of left with, well, we can do local ads on broadcast, or we'll do national.
Right.
It's leaps and bounds, of course, from that, which is another kind of, I guess, fuel behind the growth in the overall advertising support and investment in the channel.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. You talked also about, all of these data points that are going to allow you to, do this hyper targeting. Like you said, people that are listening to wellness podcasts, meditation type podcasts, then they may be more a target for that CBD particular product. Makes a lot of sense. When we're looking at other types of ads, digital ads online with all of these social networks, a large part of their targeting and their personalization on how they personalize ads is, them getting data via cookies and seeing, following people, where they're going, what sites that they're visiting, what are they clicking on. If they were on Amazon, looking at, this type of product, then you can you're creating a persona to then be able to target the right ad to that person. So it's really, in that arena, it's really it can be hyper, specific. Yeah. With audio, since, you're just trying to target based on those other data points, how are you able to really drill down to an individual as opposed to just more of a group of people and their interests? Is it possible via audio?
It is possible. And so sometimes it's the difference between targeting and what we do, which is decisioning. Okay. But I'll try and tease it out. We work with a number of clients, large national advertisers that use their first party data. So, you think about loyalty customers, right, and their status. Or if you think in the telco space, existing customers versus customers that aren't. So existing customers will get an upgrade message. Yeah. Target customers will get a obviously not an upgrade message, but one to come and join us. And here's an aggressive promotion that will entice you to do it, or we'll pay you or buy you out of your previous contract. So that in a way is kind of leveraging kind of, individual customer data, in the sense that we're acknowledging that someone is a current subscriber to a particular service or loyalty member of a particular retailer, let's say. And then we can drill down further. And, I'm thinking about a couple of national restaurant brands where, in their product assortment, they're both food and beverage items. Yep. And we're able to kind of select from that broad menu the types of items that a particular listener gravitates towards. Wow. And so, what I think creates a little bit of unease with consumers is the targeting, is the sense that, very similar brands or products are kind of interrupting you with the same ad, if you will. Whereas decisioning really just makes if you're let's just use an example. If you're an Amazon, we're all Amazon shoppers probably to greater or lesser extent, right? Yeah, sure. I'm in a household of 6, and I can assure you that we've got 6 very, very different Amazon profiles.
Sure, I can imagine.
And so the optimal ad that Amazon would serve me versus that of any one of my 4 kids, or indeed my wife, that would show a very different list of products in actual each instance. And so that's an example of using, or how a brand can use kind of their own first party data on an individual basis to optimize the message at that listener, at that individual level, to great effect.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's really powerful. And so it seems like you can get enough information to really, get that person the right ad, or at least those groups of people, specifically what you would be something that would be more targeted for them. Now, if, let's say, an e-commerce business that's listening is kind of sold on this, and they want to get into this arena of the audio ads, kind of the next question, I think, when we're thinking of digital advertising, no matter what type of advertising it is, the next logical question then is, okay, what type of ads, as far as the content of these ads, are more successful than others based on your experience? Are there specific pieces of content that outperform others, where if somebody's going down this road, they can kind of try to gravitate to that type of content?
Yeah. So I'd say that one of the biggest variables in determining the answer to your question would be the type of e-commerce brand. So let's distinguish quickly between the two extremes: enormous behemoth e-commerce, and something that's niche, very, very specific.
Yeah.
So that the opportunity for that large whale is kind of what we discussed with Amazon, where it's like, okay, I'm so many things to so many different people. If I'm going to interrupt someone for 15 or 30 seconds, I want to put my best foot forward.
Yeah.
So, I've got an absolute disaster of a kind of yard out there. So, I need, rakes and some kind of leaf blowing equipment. Right. And that's going to be anyone who wants to put that in front of me right now, given what I'm looking outside my window at, they're going to have a good shot. It'll be money well spent. So that would be the case, I think, for the large side. Then if you go niche, it's, I think, much more leans towards, well, okay, so what are, generally speaking, a smaller D2C e-com brand will have a very good idea as to what type of customer is attracted or likely to be attracted to their offering or service.
Okay.
Very often it's based on a lifestyle interest or affinity. It's pretty easy and reliable. I won't say easy, but it's pretty reliable to map that interest or affinity, whether it's fitness, arts and crafts, artisanal cheese, whatever it might be. You could relatively reliably map that to a genre of content that is popular in the audio space.
I see.
And from there, you can create almost your own, what we would call a slate of titles, podcast shows, radio stations, playlists, and you could stitch together this kind of, as I said, slate of media. And then use that as your pool, your inventory pool, to serve ads against. And so in that instance, you're not varying the ad creative as much as the large e-com retailer, the massive whale, who's really being so many different things to different people. There's a greater consistency, but the actual targeting is very, very important on the front end to, like I said, map the interests that or the appeal that your particular service has, mapping that appeal to particular genres of content the audio space.
Yeah. So it sounds like for the niche business, it's not necessarily as complicated as they may think to come up with this particular content. They really just are going to need to look at their existing customer personas that they've already established for whatever marketing they're already doing. They're looking at those personas, their ideal customer. They probably have, certain personas already existing, and they already have certain types of advertising. So they just need to kind of in each of those different personas, create almost like, I guess you could say, an audio version of the ad that they're already doing for that customer. Is that is that kind of what they want to do?
Yeah, I would. Okay. And the second dimension, Arnold, would be growth stage. So there I was kind of giving an example of relatively early stage, in the sense that you start off with your best customers, if you will. You got to, generally speaking, you got a clear idea of who they are. You're solving a particular need or problem there,
right? And
then often, when with success, you then start to address, okay, what's the next group of customers that I could appeal to? Like, I'm thinking about, for some reason, I'm thinking about e-com apparel sites that will start off based around a pretty small niche group of highly sophisticated, apparel hunters, right? People who are fashionable, let's say. And then once it hits a certain scale, there's a whole other tier of an audience that is, not maniacally following every streetwear or fashion piece of news or content, but at the same time has a more casual but nonetheless a passing interest in the space. And the next stage of growth for that e-com brand might actually be this audience. And so marketing to that audience that, as I said, is less passionately aware and sophisticated as the core, it requires a different approach and a different presentation. And that's the value of data, in that it helps you position yourself in the best optimal way to that consumer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it all does start with that data. You've got to have that data, because otherwise, if you don't, you may be kind of shooting in the dark. And it also, with data, with startup brands, a little bit more difficult. They may not have a lot of data initially. They haven't sold a lot many products yet. They could be looking at, to create their initial advertising. They're probably looking at other competitors in their space and, trying to do some similar things. But yeah, over time, as you're getting more and more sales, you're acquiring all of this data, then I think it'll be a lot more easier to, to see, okay, what types of customers are purchasing, where are they purchasing from, and then creating those different personas. Well, Paul, as we get ready to wrap things up, I wanted to see if you could share a quick case study or just a general example of a brand that you've seen that has had significant success by, leveraging hyper-targeted audio ads.
Yeah, I guess one that comes to mind would be Target, obviously a big national retailer.
Yeah.
And when I think about the creative teams inside Target that have like such enormous complexity and volume, when you think about there's so many stores nationwide, so many products within each store, there's a cadence of promotions and deals that change week over week, that sometimes are only specific to certain stores. There's also the case where certain stores are brand new and have got Starbucks and a Disneyland inside them. And of course, why wouldn't you want to tell the people about that? Because it's amazing, but not all of them have got the Disneyland inside. So you don't want to just say that to everybody, and because you're going to leave loads of people disappointed. So much kind of both volume and complexity. And, we actually kind of set up a mini kind of Target team inside the company at AMA that enabled them to effectively the equivalent of updating a Google Doc every week. And then their audio advertising is hyper current every day in every single market, so that when there's something on sale, it's actually available in that store. When there is a remodel of a store, if there's an event happening, it's specific to that store. And it's kind of this machine that we didn't have before, but that we basically built for Target. That, as I said, makes a really impressive use of not just audio, but then the platform itself in terms of being able to optimize creative based on data, but to do so with a really, really high level of flexibility and agility, so that when things change, as they invariably do, it's doable, it's viable to be responsive and to make these adjustments. Which, when you think about, going into a recording booth and laying down a master and producing an audio ad, it's kind of like, now how can you change that? You can't, but actually now you can, and you can be almost as agile as we've seen people be with kind of display and social media, which is great.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful stuff. Yeah, it's just the technology that's out here today that's enabling these brands to be able to, it's almost like you're creating real time, advertising, and being able to pivot, like you said, just so quickly. That's where, years before, to decades before, wasn't quite possible. When we were just dealing with the days of the, radio and ads for the radio. I mean, that was when you think about that then and now, I mean, that was, I can imagine, a huge process when, you're getting your ad on a radio station at a specific time, and the process to getting it to them and selecting your segment. If you're looking to make any changes, you probably have several, you're probably committed, or you were committed to like, a few months at a time or several weeks at a time in order to pivot or make changes. You got a whole nother time frame that you got to deal with and to try to get in. So yeah, it's we're in a whole new world now. So yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, thank you for sharing that example of Target and how they're doing things. Well, this has been an awesome conversation, Paul. I've definitely learned a lot, and I know our listeners and viewers have as well. So it's a hot area, and I know it's going to just continually change and just really grow in audio. It's definitely something that an e-commerce brand shouldn't discount, because even because, like I said before, there's so much of a push for this video. You don't want to forget about audio, because there's definitely an opportunity there.
Definitely.
Well, I always like to close things out so that we can switch gears here a little bit, just so our audience can get to know you a little bit better. If you don't mind sharing one closing fun fact about yourself that you think we may be interested to know.
Oh, a fun fact.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. So I'm looking at my reflection here on the screen. I don't think this will be interesting for anyone to know, but it's I guess what I've got. I've cut my own hair.
Okay.
Since I was 10 years old.
Okay. Wow.
Which probably won't surprise you, because you can see me here on this screen. But yeah, not a hand has been laid on my head.
Okay.
For over 3 decades.
Wow.
Which I don't know what that says about me, but
that's impressive. At 10, that's very impressive. Yeah, you've got me beat. I've been cutting my own hair for probably just a good 20 years, maybe. That's probably about it. Yeah. I don't think at the age of 10, I don't think I would have had the nerve.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's not that big a deal when you're an adult, but yeah, in the early days, it was a little bit contentious with my parents. Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know if my parents would have permitted that back in the day. For sure. Well, yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that fun fact. I appreciate that. Lastly, before we do let you go, if you don't mind sharing the best way for our listeners and viewers to contact you if they want to reach out to you and pick your brain any more about audio advertising.
Oh, sure. We got a new site, actually. Had a little bit of a rebrand at the beginning of the year. So AwesomenessTV.com is the site. Loads of information on there. Couple of demos, and hit me up, LinkedIn, or my email is first name dot last name at amillionads.com. Paul Kelly.
Okay, that's awesome. We'll have the link to the site in the show notes, and that's an easy one to remember, just amillionads.com. Definitely recommend people to check you out there. And if they want to reach out to you, they'll look you up on the social networks. Well, thanks again, Paul, for joining us today. We really appreciate having you on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thank you, Arlen. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Are you looking to take your digital marketing to the next level, but are tired of weeding through countless YouTube videos with unproven and untrusted marketing strategies? Well, we have the answer for you. The More Sales Every Month online digital marketing course. In this information-packed course, you will learn effective keyword research, link building, content marketing, and much more to attract and convert your site visitors into paying customers. Just go to moresaleseverymonth.com and sign up today for a low one-time fee. In addition to this power-packed course, if you would like to get access to a growing repository of digital marketing articles, PDFs, and ebooks, check out getosi.com/resources and opt in to get full access to our library of priceless marketing information to help you take your digital marketing to the next level.